Welcome back to my channel Kridha Educare. I am back with another topic, transport of food and minerals in plant. This is going to help standard 8 and 9 student. So let's continue with the topic, transport of food and minerals in plant. In this topic we are going to consider all these points: absorption of water by plants, movements of molecules, conduction of sap, importance of water to the plants, transpiration, factors affecting rate of transpiration, significance of transpiration, conducting tissues, nutrients in tissues. Basically this chapter I'm going to complete in 3 parts. So in the first part we will be taking absorption of water by plants, movement of molecules, conduction of sap, and importance of water to the plant. In today's video I will complete all this 4 topics. Thereafter in 2 more videos I will complete the chapter. So absorption of water by plants. Dear students, so the topic was transport of food and minerals in plant. So how come this food and mineral in plant will get transported? By the help of water. So water is necessary for maintenance of life, growth and development of plant. All this basic function, that is life, growth and development in plant, is only because of water. By the help of water only the essential nutrients, that is the mineral and the food, are being transported to the plant. Land plants have well developed root system. This land plant has a well developed root system to absorb water from the soil. From the soil this land plant can absorb water and get transported to all the other parts of the plant. Now coming to the main topic, that is absorption of water by plants. How this water will get absorbed by the plant? By the help of root. Earlier also I stated this. So what is this root? Root is a non-green underground part of the plant. It is non-green, underground, below the soil, underground part of the plant. They do not have buds, nodes and leaves. Buds means they will not have anything like this from which flowers or fruits can come. They will not have the nodes. This is the node between, and they will not have the leaves on its surface. Okay, so they don't have buds, nodes and leaves on its surface. Roots are well suited for its function of absorption. Its main function is to absorb the water and transport the food and minerals to the different parts of the plant. So it is well suited to its function of absorption of water, both morphologically in the form and structure from the outside, as well as the internal structure, that is anatomically it is well suited. How it is well suited? See, this is the first point. This is known as the taproot or the primary root. Now from this taproot or the primary root emerges the another root, that is known as the secondary root, and from this secondary root thin hair like structures emerge that are known as tertiary root. These tertiary roots are also known as root hairs. They are also known as root hairs. They are thin capillary structures, capillary like structures, and by capillary action they absorb the water and transport to the different parts of the plant. So in this way the absorption of water in the plant takes place. There are millions and billions of root hairs. These root hairs are millions and billions in per plant, and the absorption of water thus takes from this root hairs, which is then transported to different parts of the plant. This is all about your absorption of water by plants. Now we will move to the movement of molecules. How the movement of molecules take place? That means when the root hair absorb water, how the molecules of water or any other molecules which are mixed with the salts and all get moved to different parts of the plant. So these are by the 3 processes, that is diffusion, second is your osmosis, third is your active transport. One by one we will deal with each one of them. Firstly, we are going to deal with diffusion. Now the diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of molecules of gases, liquids and solid. Any of the molecule, that is, it can be gas, it can be liquid, or it can be solid. They move from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration. That means where the concentration is high, it will move from that region to the lower concentration. So this solid, we will see this experiment. There are 3 vessels. Each one is filled with the water. Now in the first vessel, that is the A1, we have put a sugar cube. This is the sugar cube. Here the concentration of the sugar cube is so much, so it will get dissolved by diffusion slowly and slowly in the water. So you can see in the B part, this sugar cube has come to little smaller size because some of its molecules is being dissolved in this water, and finally in the vessel C it is totally dissolved, resulting in a sweet water. So how come we got this sweet water? From the process of diffusion. The concentration of sugar is high here, so it started getting dissolved by the process of diffusion, because in this the movement of molecules of gas, liquid or solid, so it is solid in nature here, so it started diffusing in the liquid because here the higher concentration, so from here to here and then B to C, and in the C vessel we can say all the molecules of the sugar are uniformly diffused. Students, we have learnt about the diffusion. Now what is the role of diffusion? What is the role of this diffusion? The role of diffusion is in exchange of gases between cell and the outer environment. That means between the cells of the plant and the outer environment. So what kind of gases? That is CO2 and O2. Respiration. Okay. Now the second role of diffusion is exchange of gases between the cells. Between 2 cells also there is exchange of gases by the help of diffusion. So this is all about your diffusion in movement of molecules. The first one, diffusion, we have completed. Now moving to the second topic, that is osmosis. So before starting osmosis, I would like to explain you some terms. That is, the first one is your permeable membrane. Now what is this permeable membrane? Those membrane which allow both solute and solvent to pass through. So permeable membrane is that membrane which allows both the solute and the solvent to pass through. So solvent can be your water, and the solute are the small particles which we dissolve in the water. Okay, so solvent, your water is solvent, and the particles which we will dissolve in this water, this is the solute. So this permeable membrane allows both the solute and the solvent to pass through it. The next one is your impermeable membrane. Now, what is this impermeable membrane? It does not allow neither the solute nor the solvent to pass it through it. Does not allow neither solute nor solvent to pass. Okay. Now the third one is your semi-permeable membrane. Now, what does semi-permeable membrane do? It allows only the water molecules to pass through it. It allows only the water molecules to pass through it, not the solute molecules. And the last one is your selectively permeable membrane. It allows only selective things to pass. It allows only the selective things to pass through it. Now, what can be the example of the permeable membrane? Like your cell wall. Your example for this is cell wall. Cell wall allows both the solute and the solvent to pass through it. Impermeable membrane can be your cork, rubber sheath, then your semi-permeable membrane can be the egg membrane, and your selectively permeable membrane can be your cell membrane. So these are the examples of each membrane. So after completing all these four, now we will move to the part osmosis. Now what is osmosis? Osmosis is also, as we can say, osmosis is also a special kind of diffusion. Osmosis is a special kind of diffusion. Why special kind of diffusion? Because osmosis, it is a special kind of diffusion. Because it allows only water molecules to pass through it. Osmosis is a special kind of diffusion. It is a special kind of diffusion because it allows only the water molecules to pass through it. In diffusion, the molecules, solid molecules, liquid molecules, as well as the gaseous molecules, all can pass. But in osmosis, only the water molecules can pass through it. In this also, it will pass from high concentration to low concentration. Similar like osmosis, the movement of the molecule is from the high concentration region to the lower concentration region, and but in this only the water molecules used to pass, and but it passes from a semi-permeable membrane. That is the special kind of diffusion because it allows only the water molecules to pass from high concentration to low concentration by a semi-permeable membrane. By a semi-permeable membrane. So now only I cleared you this term. What is a semi-permeable membrane? Again listen. Semi-permeable membranes are those membranes which allow only the solvent molecule, that is the water molecule, to pass through it. It does not allow the solute molecule to pass through it, and here only the water molecule is going to pass. So osmosis is a special kind of diffusion because it allows only the water molecules to pass from high concentration to low concentration by a semi-permeable membrane. This root hairs are semi-permeable and act as an osmotic system through which the movement of water molecules take place. Root hairs act as a semi-permeable membrane. Basically they have a semi-permeable membrane and thus act as like a osmotic system and allows the water to pass through the different parts of the plants. Now with one diagram I can explain you. Suppose this is a semi-permeable membrane. Suppose this is a semi-permeable membrane. Now in this side concentrated sugar solution and this side dilute sugar solution, and these are the sugar molecules. Okay, so from high concentration to low concentration, how it is working? This is a semi-permeable membrane through which the water molecules has to pass. Now the concentration of the sugar molecules are more here, whereas the concentration of the sugar molecules is lesser. It is a dilute sugar solution. So the net flow of the water is from dilute solution to the concentrated solution. Okay, water will move from the net flow of the water is from dilute solution to the concentration solution, and the flow will continue until the two concentrations are equal. So that if more water will come here, this will also become diluted. And when the concentration will be equal on both the sides, the flow of the water will stop. So in this manner the semi-permeable membrane works and maintains the balance of the concentration on both the sides. So this is all about your osmosis. Before completing this osmosis, I would also like to explain you some of the terms related with the osmosis. So let's see that. Terms related to osmosis. So the first term is your endoosmosis. Now what is this endoosmosis? The movement of water molecules, it can be a solvent. The movement of water and the solvent molecules from external dilute solution, external dilute solution into a cell. So the movement of the water, or it can be any solvent molecules from external dilute solution into the cell. When the movement of the water molecules is inside the cell. Suppose this is an external dilute solution. External dilute solution. So, and it is a cell. When the movement of the water molecule is inside the cell, this is a cell. When the movement of the water molecules is inside the cell, then this is known as endoosmosis. So how the movement of the water molecules is inside the cell? By selectively permeable membrane or the cell membrane. Okay. Now the next one is your exoosmosis. The second one is your exoosmosis. It is just opposite to it. In this, the withdrawal of the water or the solvent molecules from a cell into an external concentrated solution. In exoosmosis, withdrawal of water or solvent molecules from cell to outer concentrated solution. When the movement of the water molecules is outside the cell, from the concentrated outside the cell to the concentrated solution which is present outside, the concentrated solution which is present outside, then it is known as exoosmosis. When it is inside the cell from the dilute solution, then it is known as endoosmosis. When it is outside the cell, then it is known as exoosmosis. Now the third term is our plasmolysis. Now what is this plasmolysis? It basically is connected with exoosmosis. In exoosmosis, what is happening? The withdrawal of the water and the solvent molecule from the cell to the outer concentrated solution. That means that particular cell is kept in a the concentrated solution. The outer environment is concentrated. So when this condition happens, there is a shrinkage of protoplasm. Shrinkage of protoplasm. That is, when there is a shrinkage of protoplasm of a cell due to loss of water by exoosmosis. In exoosmosis, there is a loss of water because there is a withdrawal of the water or the solvent molecule from the cell. So that means there is a loss of water. The water is coming out of the cell. So the shrinkage of protoplasm of the cell due to exoosmosis, when it is placed in a outer concentrated solution, this is known as plasmolysis. Now what is the term protoplasm? See, suppose this is a cell, this is a cell membrane, then inside a jelly liquid like substance is present, that is known as cytoplasm. The liquid which is present inside the cell, that is cytoplasm. Then another membrane, that is a nuclear membrane. Then in this nuclear membrane also a jelly liquid like substance is there. Then that is known as nucleoplasm. Then this nucleoplasm and cytoplasm together is protoplasm. So you can say cytoplasm and the nucleoplasm together consist of protoplasm, and the shrinkage of the protoplasm of the cell due to exoosmosis is known as plasmolysis. Now the last term for it, that is deplasmolysis. Deplasmolysis. This deplasmolysis is basically connected with endoosmosis. In this, what happened? The plasmolyzed cell, the cell which has been plasmolyzed due to plasmolysis, that plasmolyzed cell retain its original volume. It will swell up. Why? Because the movement of water and the solvent molecule from the external dilute solution into the cell. Now, suppose this is a cell. It is a plasmolyzed cell. Wait. This is a plasmolyzed cell. No water is there. Now, when it is kept in dilute solution, when it is kept in a dilute solution, this plasmolyzed cell will swell, because the movement of the water or the solvent molecules from the external dilute solution into the cell, this dilute solution has moved inside the cell. That's why the cell has again swelled up. So this is known as deplasmolysis, and it is because of endoosmosis. So here we complete about our osmosis. Now we will move to the third topic under the movement of molecules, that is active transport. So active transport. What is active transport? Active transport is basically the substances. In this, the substances like ions, salts and minerals. Till now in osmosis we were dealing with water. But in active transport, the substances like ions, salts and minerals move from the region of lower concentration to the higher concentration. Earlier in osmosis it was moving from high to low, but in active transport it moves from lower concentration to higher concentration. So if anything is moving from lower concentration to higher concentration, it will require some sort of energy. So the energy which is required by the plant to move from the lower concentration to higher concentration is used in the form of ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate, and that energy is used from the cell itself. Okay, so active transport, in this the substances like ions, salts and minerals move from the region of their lower concentration to the higher concentration by using energy. In this, energy is used because in this lower to higher we have to go. So for that we need energy, and that energy we use in the form of ATP from the cell. So don't get confused between osmosis and active transport. In osmosis we deal with water and the movement is from higher to lower concentration, but in this the movement is from lower concentration to higher concentration, and the substances like ions, salt and minerals, they move, and in this we use energy from the cell itself, and that energy is ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. Now, what is the role of this active transport in absorption? So, root hairs absorb minerals from the soil by the process of active transport. Water is being absorbed from the root hair by the process of osmosis. Here, the root hair, by the process of osmosis, it absorbs the water. But the minerals that are present in the soil, that are taken up by the plant by the process of active transport. Okay, so here here don't get confused between osmosis and active transport. And in active transport is useful for the absorption of minerals from the soil by the from the soil, and root hair absorbs water from the soil by osmosis. And then the water get to the deeper parts of the roots by cell to cell osmosis. From here osmosis, the water is being taken, then inside from cell to cell osmosis it is being transported to the deeper parts of the plant, and then pass through the root tissues, and from the root tissues to the xylem vessels, which is a conducting tissue. Xylem vessels, and it is a conducting tissue. Now this conducting tissue will take it to all the parts of the plant. So this is all about your active transport. Now we will see the role of osmosis as well. Role of osmosis is in absorption of water by plants, by plant roots. Okay, the next one is the movement of water and minerals from one cell to another. Movement of water and mineral from one cell to another. First, there is a absorption of water from the plant root, and once it get absorbed, there is cell to cell osmosis also. In that also osmosis, there is a role of osmosis in movement of water and minerals. So this is the role of osmosis, and here we complete our second topic, that is movement of molecules. In that we have considered diffusion, osmosis and active transport. Now we will move to the next topic, that is conduction of sap. So conduction of sap. So conduction of sap is the water. So first we will know what is sap. The water absorbed by the plant is also called sap, because it is actually the dissolved solution of minerals. The water which is being absorbed from the root hair is actually the dissolved solution of the minerals. So that water is known as sap. So what is this conduction of sap now? The upward movement of the water or a sap from the root towards the top of the plant is called conduction or ascent of sap. So first try to understand what is sap. The water absorbed by the plant is also called sap, and this sap water is basically, it is a dissolved form of minerals. Okay, now this dissolved minerals or water, minerals dissolved in that water or that sap, the upward movement of the water or a sap from the roots to the top of the plant is called conduction or ascent of sap. And now how it takes place? It takes place through the tracheids and the xylem tissue. In the next video, when I will teach you the conductive tissue, in that we will know what is xylem and phloem, and inside that I will make you clear what is this tracheid and the xylem tissues. Okay. Now this conduction of sap basically occurs due to various forces. The rise in the sap is governed by many forces. So what are those forces? Rise in sap is governed by many forces. Okay, so those forces are, first we will take the first one is our capillary force. So how this capillary force basically works in the conduction of sap? The xylem tissues work as a thin fine capillary tubes. The xylem tissues work as a thin fine capillary tube. Suppose this is a xylem tissue. It works like a thin fine capillary tube. And in this capillary tube, this is very narrow, it is not a broader one, it is very narrow, and in that the movement of water will take place upward. It will take place upward, movement of water. And this movement of water which is taking place upward is against the gravity. It's against the gravity, and this occurs due to the intermolecular forces between the walls of the tube as well as the water molecule. The intermolecular forces between walls of tube and water molecules. So this xylem tissue will act like a thin fine capillary tube inside which the movement of water will take place and result in the conduction of sap. And this is against the gravity, and this occurs due to the intermolecular forces between the walls of a tube and the water molecule. This is known as the capillary force. Now we will move to the next one, that is transpirational pull. That is transpirational pull. So what happens in this transpirational pull? The loss of water from the leaves. The loss of water from the leaves develop a force which pulls the water from the root to the top. This is a leaf. Suppose here is a sun. Due to the heat of the sun, there will be the loss of water from the leaf surface. The water will evaporate from the leaf surface due to the heat of the sun. And as the water starts evaporating from the leaf surface, there develops a force that will lead to the water, that will lead the movement of the water from the root to the top of the leaves. So this is known as the transpirational pull. Due to the sun, heat of the sun, and there will be the loss of water from the leaves of the plant, and due to this loss there will be developed a force, and that force will allow the movement of the water from the root to the top. This is known as your transpirational pull. Okay, so in the transpirational pull only we will also come to know about turgor pressure. Now what is this turgor pressure? See, on the absorption of water, suppose it is a plant. On the absorption of water, it will become swollen. It will become swollen and look fresh. That is because of the turgidity of the protoplasm, and due to the turgidity of the protoplasm, and that protoplasm will allow the cell wall to move outside, and that will lead to turgor pressure. See, suppose this is a cell. Now when it is placed in a water, it will absorb water and get swelled, and this swollen cell, the cell has become turgid. The cell has become turgid, and due to this turgid, the protoplasm which is present inside will allow the cell wall to swell more, and thus it will help us to look more fresh. So this is basically happening in the plant. When we provide the water to the roots of the plant, it will take the water by the capillary action, by the transpirational pull, and will send it to all the different parts, and due to that all the different cells of the plant will swell up and the plant will look fresh. This is known as the turgor pressure. It keeps the leaves, flowers and the fruits of the plant expanded. What does the turgor pressure do? Keeps leaves, flowers, fruits expanded, and thus the plant will look fresh. On opposite to it, there is one phenomena known as wilting. That is when there is not much turgor pressure. That is in the plant cell there is one organelle known as vacuole. It has a big sac like structure in which it fills the water. When there is a loss of water from it, or when there is a lack of water in that, the plant will fade down. It will not look fresh, and that is known as wilting. So here we have completed the second one also, the transpirational pull. Now we will come with the third force, that is your root pressure. The third force is your root pressure. Now the third one is the root pressure. Now what is the root pressure? The pressure developed in the root due to continuous inflow of water into a responsible for pushing the sap upward. There is a continuous flow of the water from the root towards the different parts of the plant. So due to that a pressure develops. That pressure is known as root pressure. And there is a one note, it is not universal, it occurs only in some plant. It is not universal, it occurs only in some plants. So the root pressure, due to the continuous inflow of the water from the root to different parts of the plant, develops a pressure in the root. That is known as the root pressure, and it is not universal in all the plant. It occurs only in some plants. Now one more thing very important we have to know about the root pressure, that is root pressure occur in the xylem of vascular tissue when the soil moisture level is high. That means when we give more water to the soil for the plant, then there is more moisture in the soil. At that time the root pressure will develop, and during the night time it will occur when the transpiration is during the daytime it will occur and during the day when transpiration is low, that time the root pressure will occur. During the night, we can say when there is a moisture level high in the soil, that time the root pressure will occur, and during the daytime when the transpiration is low, that time the root pressure will occur. So here we have completed the third topic also, the conduction of sap. Now we will move with the last topic of today's video, that is importance of water to the plant. Very first line I have told you that water is very essential for the plants. So here we with the last topic, that importance of water to the plants. Water is used by the plants for photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? The preparation of the food by the plant in the presence of sunlight, CO2 and water is known as photosynthesis. So water is very important, essential component in photosynthesis that helps in the preparation of food for the plant. The second one is your water helps in the transportation of the substance from one region to another in the plant. All the minerals which are present in the soil, they are moved to the different parts of the plant. The minerals which are present in the soil, they are moved to different parts of the plant by the help of water, because they get dissolved in the water and thus are moved from one region to another in the plant. It provides turgidity to the plant cell, which is essential for the maintenance of support and growth of the plant. Sometime before I explained you what is turgor pressure. So in the turgor pressure, the plant becomes swollen and turgid and thus looks fresh, and that is essential for the support. If it is turgid in nature, it will stand straight, otherwise wilting will result and it will fade off. Now the next one is, water is a major component of plant. Yes, water is a major component of plant because it is used for photosynthesis, it is used for transportation and many other things like causing evaporation. The next one is, it cools the plant by causing evaporation from the surface of the leaf. When there is a transpiration, that is the removal of the water due to the heat of the sun, the plant body gets cool down. You can take an example on yourself also. Suppose you are running for a long time and you start sweating. After sweating, when the air or the wind blows near from your body, you feel a cooling sensation. In the same way, when there is a evaporation, that is a transpiration from the water, the plant also gets cooled down. The last point in this importance of water to the plant is, water controls the opening and closing of stoma in leaf. From where does the gaseous exchange takes place? From the stomata. Water is lost in transpiration from the stomata. So whenever there is more water, the stomata automatically gets open, and whenever there is a lack of water in the plant body, the stomata remain closed. So water controls the opening and closing of the stoma in the leaves. So here we complete our today's fourth topic also, importance of water to the plant. I hope this video is going to be very fruitful in completing for class 8th and 9th. If you find it very useful for yourself, do like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.